Welcome back. Before we went on that break, I was talking about a tweet by Festus Akinboyewa, and he's saying, since security matters to all Nigerians, they should have a stake in the task of building national security. The current approach to security is failing. A different vision and fresh strategy to tackle the herdsmen attack is needed.
Well, first of all, while not holding brief for the security systems, I want to remember that anything in government takes time to change. And you have a structure that's been built all over the years. Yes, change is as natural as breathing, and there must be change anyway. However, what we're saying now is that our callers need to understand that we're not dealing with the traditional problems we used to have before. We're now dealing with foreign intelligence that is looking into Nigeria, supplying strategy, looking at backup, and then giving advice on operations in a way that we are meeting with a mind that we have never faced before in Nigeria. So we need to also realize that this is not something we can place just on the security.
Well, that's why we need new vision, new strategy.
Well, if you're going to say that we are going to have an overhaul, you are right. The whole globe is changing. Across the world, we're in what they call the post-truth era. And a lot of nations across the world, there's so much upheavals going. Nigeria cannot pretend as if we're not affected by these things. And the worst thing for us, really and truly, is that the lowest common factor of all these things we're seeing across the country is the low value of human worth, which is not the result of just one political dispensation. It is a tree that has been growing for years. And this is where we have to, with equanimity, without emotions, without, looking for just human enemies alone. We need to draw up an overarching strategy and implement.
Okay. Dr. Mr. Ejiofor, this one is to you. Two mails here, I'll read to you. So please, if you just listen carefully. Dr. Tine Vongwa says, the governor said the attackers met in a state before the attack. If so, why didn't the security agencies take action? Sometimes these marauders give notice before the attack, yet security agencies do nothing. Then Zach Wade, writing in from Markodi, says, unless the federal government acknowledges the fact that the herdsmen attack issue requires the same attention given to Boko Haram, why is it taking the president years to make a press conference on the herdsmen killings? Zach Wade from Markodi.
Yeah, you see, that's a provision of intelligence, like the governor acknowledged that they had information. What is information? Intelligence is processed information. They received information. What was the credibility of that information or intelligence? And why was it not acted upon? So this is where government should come in. If actually credible intelligence was provided and action was not taken, who is responsible for taking the action? I agree with the second tweet that the federal government, not just the federal government, the president should take this thing as a matter of personal concern to issue a statement, not just on behalf a statement issued by his aides, or pay a visit to that place. We must accord this thing a very serious attention. Otherwise, as I see, God forbid, a total breakdown and flow and order, especially in Benue State.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, let me read this to you. Adamu Hayatu says, if it happens in southern Kaduna, it is El Rufai. But when it is in Rivers, Benue, Numan, or Mambila, then it is Buhari. That's Adamu Hayatu. Another one from Abdul at Ishaka says, he's reporting on something. Niger Delta militants behead security official. There is a report on Sahara Reporters. He says, at Neota Egbe and co on Channels TV, don't report stuff like this. Says the Fulanis are not involved. That's Abdul.
Again, this is why I said that the architecture of governance that we have in Nigeria, like I did say earlier on, is built on many narratives that we developed in the earlier decades. One of them was what we built on was the divide and rule. And so you notice that whatever issue comes up, naturally, instinctively, you have a North versus South opinion build up. Now, what they are saying here, I've already said something that we need to go beyond emotions. We need to look at unarmed truth. I remember when we started out with the Boko Haram issue, when I first started studying and I began to see that it was based on ideology. It happened that the ideology that the Boko Haram was using was Islamic. Now, a lot of people wanted to be in denial about that. But I said to them, look, we will never solve this problem. And when I began to, do some further research, I had to point out, even to Christian authorities then, that the enemy was not the Muslim, and that the enemy was not the practicing Muslim, neither in the south nor in the north. That there was a third force that had its own agenda, but it was going to use religion as its cover. Now, people like them, you see, this is where we really need clear-cut leadership that can get the confidence of everybody, and which is why I may agree with our friend in Abuja that there may be some psychological value to Mr. President coming out openly to say, look, enough of this headsman thing. You remember in those days when Nanini was on rampage, how the Maradona, just one statement from Maradona to his inspector of police, say, where is Nanini, my friend? In a few weeks, it was all over. So the psychology of the rule of Nigeria is such that, yes, Mr. President's address to this issue directly will not only allay a lot of fears, but it will dispel the traditional fears that are, always simmering under the surface. But I keep saying, what we really need in Nigeria is to address these issues head on, with wisdom, but we must address them head on because we may not have the kind of time on our hands that we think we have as a nation.
Addressing them means what? Unwinding them.
Acknowledging, like for instance, some of these tweets that you have there are emotional. The truth is, Boko Haram has been contained to a good degree. The headsmen are traditionally Fulani, and they still are Fulani. They're spread right across West Africa, across, the nation states of West Africa. We cannot deny that whoever is using the Fulani narrative is doing so intelligently. Which is not to say that we report across the country. There's a devaluation of human worth right across the country.
Okay, let's quickly go to Mr. Ejiofor. Finally, what is your take, or what are you leaving behind in terms of tackling this challenge?
We just have to change our narratives. That it goes beyond this issue of herdsmen, farmers clash. We just have to change that narrative. And the only way we can do it is for government to come up with high-power delegation of investigation to establish people behind these attackers, their aims, their objectives, their structure. That's the only way to go. Once that is done, we should be able to tackle some of the problems. But once we continue to live in denial, the problem will remain with us.
Thank you so much for your thoughts this morning, Mr. Mike Ejiofor, a former director at the Department of State Security Service, and a security expert, Mr. Ladi Thompson. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine.
So we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at population issues. Stay with us.